This week on Podcast Perspectives,
How can independent podcasters make more money from their content?
Just be consistent. Release weekly episodes, same time, same place. Talk to your audience. Get involved in podcast communities.
Joining us today is Audioboom CEO Stuart Last. Audioboom is one of the last remaining independent podcast networks out there and has the advantage of being publicly traded, which means they have to share earnings reports. Stuart has more than 15 years of media experience working at places like BBC and Voxnest, and under his leadership, Audioboom has achieved remarkable growth, boasting over 100 million audio and video downloads per month and supporting more than 8,000 podcasts. The platform has generated more than $250 million for independent creators. Today, we talk through the future of video and podcasting, the different tech constraints that Audioboom has to think about, and consolidation in the industry. Welcome to the show, Stuart.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
I think that what you guys are doing is fascinating, and I think that it is kind of illustrative of where most of the industry both was 10 years ago and is going in the future. And you're just a little bit of a time capsule in a good way of the industry as a whole. To start, who are you and what does Audioboom do?
Well, I am Stuart Last, the CEO of Audioboom. And, I think key to what you just said, Jeff, is the fact that Audioboom is one of the only publicly traded companies in the podcasting space. And really what that means is every 3 months, we have to put out our financial results and a ton of data that you otherwise don't get to see. So every time I see someone else in the industry, they just say, thank you. We get to see all of your data. We get to see how we are comparing. And we get some great insights into what a podcast company does. But what is Audioboom? Audioboom is a creator platform. We power podcasting for creators. Our mission is to provide independent creators with all the tools necessary to do their job. So they focus on great content creation. We give them everything else, the content management, the publishing, the hosting, the distribution, the marketing, and probably most importantly, so they can keep doing what they love, the monetization. So ad sales for their podcast. And we've been super successful at this. We've generated more than $250 million for podcast creators over the last 10 years, which I think is just an amazing thing for us to do. I'm really proud of the way we are able to support independent creators that way. We are, depending on the ranker that you look at, either the third, fourth, or fifth largest podcast publisher in the US. But we have a bit of a global footprint. We are at heart a UK company, even though we're focused on US growth. We also operate in Australia and in Canada. You'll see us in the various rankers for those territories as well. But yeah, Audioboom is a successful and fast-growing podcast platform.
The 4 countries that you just called out are all English-speaking nations. Are you planning to work in non-English speaking territories ever?
Not as of today. We don't have the strongest balance sheet that would allow us to go and invest and put money into non-English speaking territory. So, our view very much is we have to be efficient. That means partnering with English speaking podcasts and then exploiting the consumption that happens in other English speaking territories. So we work with American podcasts, but then we'll just optimize for Canada, Australia, England. If we work with a UK-based podcast, again, it's just optimizing in those other territories.
You guys released earnings last week for Q1 of 2025. Would you like to share just some of the high-level bullets from that?
We did, yeah, and that was one of the quarterly update that I mentioned earlier. And Q1 was a really good quarter for us. We delivered $17.3 million of revenue and $0.7 million of EBITDA profit. So good growth there, particularly on the EBITDA profit side, 10 times the profit levels of the same period a year ago. So from the financials, a good, strong period for us. Our market expectation, our guidance to the stock market is for us to deliver $80 million of revenue this year and $4.5 million of EBITDA profit. So we're making good steps towards that. As anyone in this space knows, Q1 is seasonally the weakest month for revenue and profit, and it drives across the year, really ramping up into Q4 because of Thanksgiving and Black Friday and the holiday season and the NFL season and the English Premier League in the UK. So you'll see that revenue number, that quarterly revenue number drive forward. And we have that pathway to the $80 million. We have, as of today, around $64 million on the books for the year. So you can see, we have 16 million to go, and we'll keep adding across the year to get to that number.
You touched on this already, but there really are only a handful of publicly traded podcast companies. Acast, Podcast One, to an extent. You also have like Spotify, iHeart, SiriusXM, but Odyssey, but they don't always break out their numbers for digital. So as compared to some of these other platforms, you're on the larger end of things. And it's kind of fun to use you guys as a bellwether for where the industry is heading. And you can kind of extrapolate some more info for the rest of the industry. I'm curious because you all have a hosting platform is like, so you have a tech solution for your podcasters in addition to your ad sales platform or the team of folks that are selling ads on behalf of all the shows that you represent. How do you kind of see yourself? Is it more so as a creator-led network where you're assisting monetization efforts, or is it more so a creator-led network where you're assisting with the technology behind their ability to make money?
I think we've always come at this thinking about both and doing a good job at both. The one thing we don't ever want to be, and we've done a good job of not being, is just an ad representation business, and see that there is great long-term value in purely selling ads on behalf of somebody else. We want those relationships, those partnerships to be much deeper than that. We do that through many different forms. Like you just said, like one is the technology and the distribution and the creation of these really important tools that allow the podcaster to do more on Audioboom than they can somewhere else. Like one great example of that, Jeff, is a tool we have called AdRip. So you have a baked in ad within your podcast. AdRip, after 30 days or 60 days, whatever setting you put on that, will automate the removal of that ad. You don't have to do anything else. And then it will provide second window monetization. So we build these tools around the need of the podcaster and support them additionally that way. But then we also are involved in the production. So we have a production team here in New York, one in London for some partners like Formula One. We're the official production partner for Formula One and their podcast. So we are producing Beyond the Grid and a couple of other podcasts at that level. But then we will also use our production team to really add deeper value to our partnerships. So if we have a large partner that wants to create a spin-off podcast, but they don't have the resources within their own production team, we will add our production into that and we'll help them create additional content, spin-off content on top of their main podcast. So all of these ways that just provide deeper, stronger partnership value. And that's why we've been very successful over the years of creating these long-term partnerships. One of our biggest UK shows is No Such Thing as a Fish, incredible podcast, legendary podcast in the UK. We've worked with those guys at this point for nearly 10 years because of that value that we bring to them. And that's it really. We've really have just focused on being more than an advertising sales company.
As part of that, something that we've seen with the past consolidation, for example, Spotify buying Megaphone and then also buying Anchor, which is now Spotify for creators, there seems to be kind of a tiered approach that a lot of these folks are using where they're looking for sheer scale with creators, and then they have kind of like their preferred creators that can command large audiences and less large dollars. Is that what you guys are doing to an extent?
Yeah, it's built into what we do for sure. So across the platform, we have around 8,000 podcasts. The top 200 of those are really where our focus is in terms of building out those new tools to suit the work of those top 200. Those are the top 200 that drive the biggest audience, that give us the best revenue opportunities. One thing about selling and delivering host advertising is that it's a very heavy lift, and you can't do that across 8,000 podcasts. So we see the top 200 as being the area where we are going to focus on that premium sales, the premium host endorsement sales. But we've also built a platform that is fantastic for podcasters at all levels. So we can still monetize the entire 8,000. We connect those to our advertising marketplace called Showcase, and we can deliver revenue to them that way. So, everyone has an option with Audioboom. You can even, if you don't want advertising, you can come in, you can pay us $10 or $20 a month and just use our professional level tool set as a publishing tool. So 3 or 4 different ways you can work with Audioboom.
Is 200 the number that you guys have set based on just how you can properly service the shows?
It's a soft limit, but every time we go over it, we find ourselves that little bit more stretched. The key thing that allowed us to even get to 200 was the building out of a new CRM based on the Salesforce platform, and we launched this around 5 years ago. Before that, we were working with Google Sheets, and everyone's experienced it, but we were able to move on from that a few years back, and that really was a game changer for us. So we built a platform on the Salesforce build, and that really is just end-to-end management for us. So when Brian comes to us and says, we have this campaign opportunity, we're able to ping that opportunity out and vet 200 podcasts in an instant through that technology. within their Audioboom dashboard, they see that ad opportunity. They say, yeah, I want to work with this advertiser, or no, I don't. We collate all of those answers back within our system. We tell the brand which shows want to work with them. The brand then books. They deliver the creative for the ad. We distribute the creative for that ad through our system out to the podcaster, sits in their dashboard. They see which ads they need to deliver in that episode. The creative and the bullet points for delivering that ad sit there within their dashboard. They can see how much money they're being paid for each one of those ads. They deliver that ad as part of the episode and publish that episode. Our system then picks up the time codes from that ad, pushes it back out to the advertiser. The advertiser can check that ad was delivered correctly. They can sign off on that ad. The moment they sign off on that ad, our system invoices them. We get paid pretty quickly, and the whole chain is kind of complete. So that automation that we built into the business has really enabled us to do this for 200 podcasts. I think we could push higher, but then we get into the space where, yes, our processes work great for more than 200 podcasts. Now we need a bigger sales team. So we now have to go and hire more salespeople, which we will do and we are doing, but there's constant challenges and things to navigate as we grow.
I actually remember when you guys implemented that, you put out a press release, and my brother does Salesforce implementations as a job. And I sent that to him and I was really excited to send it to him. And he just started laughing. And he was insinuating basically that, like, in any other industry, this is not press worthy. Having been there myself and like understanding where podcasting is, it's huge. I'm curious because you once told me that you have about two people who are like full time engineering techs on your team. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a small team, 3 techs, UK based, running a platform that delivers $80 million of revenue and 100 million plus downloads every month, and also building new tools on top of just keeping that thing running. So I think we're incredibly efficient. We only have 40 people in the entire business. It's this automation that we build in that's just allowing us to deliver those financial results that we talked about at the top.
I think it's a beautiful system that you built. And the reason I ask about that is that implementing Salesforce, creating Showcase, building your ad rip technology, you have a lot of things that you have to kind of divide the focus of those few people with. And I'm just kind of curious how you think about it as the leader of this company. How do you determine like where you're implementing the limited resources that you have in order to have the biggest impact?
I think the first thing is that we took a position pretty early here that we were not going to be the ones that push the envelope in anything that we do. We're not big enough to do that. We don't have the balance sheet, the resource to do that. So, really, what we've spent the last 10 years doing is watching where others have pushed forward and succeeded or failed, and replicating parts of that and moving into those areas where we see opportunity that really does work. And that's really been part of all aspects of Audioboom over that time. So yeah, we're not here, I don't think, to push the envelope. And it's very easy to be critical of that, right? Are we doing enough to drive this industry forward? I don't think my role is to drive this industry forward. My role is to do what I said at the top. My mission, my role here is to deliver value for podcast creators, allow them to do the thing that they are passionate about. So that was the position we took right from the start. But what we make sure that we do within that, have conversations, and we have great relationships with our podcasters. They can pick up the phone to our team anytime they want. And that's very unusual, a platform or a network of this size. But those podcasters, they talk to us, they tell us what they need, what they like, what's not what working for them. And we just make sure that we are focused on those conversations and take key parts of those conversations to build new tools to see what they need help with, what's going wrong for them, where we can improve. And I think that has led us to these tools like AdRip that nobody else has. It's just an audio boom tool that nobody else has that advantage. And that's been the focus. So just ensuring there's a little bit of time and a little bit of thought going into that. But that's for our creators. That's not for the industry as a whole.
I really like that answer because I think, as we'll discuss in a second with video, it's obviously a very important part of the future of this industry, but it's also a lot of people chasing the shiny object, you know?
There's a lot of people out there that are way smarter than I am that can push this industry forward, right? People with bigger voices, with smarter ideas that can be up on stage at Podcast Movement and make their voice count and get people thinking about what the future needs to look like and to do new things and to drive things forward. They're bigger, they're smarter than I am. Let them do that. I will drive this thing for creators.
I may disagree with you a little bit there, but also there are a lot of smart people. So I wanted to ask briefly, because I don't imagine this will be a big topic, but tariffs. You guys are a UK-based company that operates in the US quite a bit. Will you be impacted at all by any of the US government policies that are coming out right now?
Not directly from the tariffs. We're a services company, really, rather than a product company. So I think that's the first thing. But then we also create and sell within the individual territories from entities that are incorporated in those individual territories. So, our US inventory that's created, we're selling that in the US through our US entity, our UK and others. So there's no direct impact.
Other than maybe your bookkeeper? Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have to deal with additional costs when it comes that we have to find a way to pass on to our customer. That one's not the issue. Where we, I think, continue to watch and wait and have some nervousness around is what the tariffs do to the overall economy, whether this creates an inflationary environment, whether that leads to negative consumer sentiment, decreased consumer spending. In that way, that can only ever lead to a negative ad market. And that's the biggest concern for us, what that does to the ad market. We've just lived through an ad market recession. We do not need another one coming 12 months later because it was brutal for 12 to 18 months. You'll have seen that in our numbers, as you said, we
Yeah.
are that gauge of what the industry is doing. Many others were feeling the pain between 22 and 23. We felt the pain and we went backwards in 2023 and I went back into loss-making territory and our revenue went down because of that ad market recession. We're on the way back up. We're seeing growth again, but we are nervous. That could be short-lived.
I think all of us are a little bit nervous. So, my next question is going to be about video. I know it's everybody's favorite topic. How are you guys at Audioboom thinking about video? Are you able to sell it?
We monetize it. We sell it as an audience extension of the RSS distribution. We never really switched to a DAI host endorsement model. We stuck with a baked in host endorsement model because we believe in the ROI that it generates. And has been a point of difference for us over the past few years since some of the bigger networks there shifted to that DAI delivery mechanism. And that has allowed us to monetize video content. So effectively, if a podcast has 700,000 downloads per episode on the RSS feed and 300,000 video views on the YouTube version, we will sell that at 1 million downloads and views at whatever CPM that works for the advertiser. So we blend those two things together, sell it as that packaged audience extension, and they've done a good job of monetizing video to this point.
That's a really big bright spot right now in the industry. In your example, when a show has 300,000 video views, are you essentially just taking the conservative average of the last few videos?
Yeah, we'll take the conservative average. We'll, remove some for various kind of geo splits, depending on whether it's heavily weighted in the US or whether it's a little more fragmented than that. So we have a bunch of different formula that takes that into account and finds a number that still works for advertisers, but allows us to see some good value from it.
And with Spotify entering the space, specifically the Spotify Partner Program or SPP, am I correct in saying that you guys are opted into that?
We're trying to understand, I think, what Spotify's goals are here and how that would impact our main business with our podcasters. The key thing, one of the key protections in the contracts that we have with our podcasters is that they have to deliver X number of downloads, views to us, and that nothing that they do can interrupt the RSS feed distribution. Now, one of the challenges with Spotify, of course, is that the video version can it will default to the video version of that piece of content, and that can obviously decrease, therefore, the RSS feed consumption to that podcast. So that's problematic to us. We're happy monetizing through baked in advertising, but we also want to be able to monetize through DAI advertising, which is obviously RSS feed only based. So that would be a problematic setup to us. So we're navigating that a little bit, but obviously, we have protections in our partner contracts that prevent that. And then secondly, again, we are trying to understand what value there is for podcasts on Spotify to see revenue from those video versions. We've seen some numbers that have been put out by Spotify. We don't know much about that. We don't know what time frame that was over. We don't know how much inventory that was based around. We know that for podcasts that switched back to just RSS feed distribution via Audioboom, we were able to deliver $50,000 a month extra to them versus what they had been receiving Spotify video program. So right now, for them, and it's obviously a network of 4 shows. This may not be the same for everyone. There was more value in their advertising-fueled inventory being exploited at 100% rather than negating some of that in order to get video. So, we feel we're in a place and our monetization engine is still currently the more optimal setup.
In that example where 4 shows opted into SPP, does Audioboom make a commission on any of that revenue?
No, that would be carved out in the contracts that we have. If Audioboom is not doing anything to add value, which we wouldn't be in that scenario, we understand and we're comfortable with the fact that there's nothing in that for us.
Got it. So, what is a podcast?
Ah, yeah, good question. I know what it's been to me over the past 15 years that I've been working in podcasting, and I know what it's going to be more of in the future. And clearly, it's going to be more video alongside the audio in the future. And that is what a podcast is going to be. I think fundamentally, it's not about the format that's delivered in, it is more to me about the connection with audience that is so special to podcasting, and that's going to remain. And what I mean by that is, we know podcasting. We know what podcasting isn't, right? It's not linear. It's on demand. It's not full of 28 minutes of ads per hour like radio. It's a much better listening experience. We know it's a lean-in medium where you tune in to listen to the people that you love. You don't have it on in the background. So we know all the things that it's not and what it is. The format that it's delivered in, will all adapt and it will evolve over time.
So, I am very curious. You mentioned in a previous earnings report that you think that your avenue to the next 100 million downloads is going to be through some kind of acquisitions. And you mentioned earlier on this call that you think the future of the industry is going to involve a lot of consolidation, especially in the mid market networks. Can you speak more to that? How you're thinking about that as one of these powerhouses within the mid market?
I think there are 4 clear large companies in podcasting at the top of this space. It's Wondery, which is Amazon, SiriusXM, iHeartMedia, Spotify. Those guys have deep audio businesses or very wide-ranging advertising sales teams that have a lot of leverage with the agencies, with brands at a global level. That's gonna make it, over time, very difficult for any independent business to compete in the podcasting space. Set up, I guess, in many ways to the music industry, right? With 3 or 4 giants, whatever that looked like over time. And I think what it really needs is the independent sector to come together and to leverage the best of the technology that the independent sector has, the best sales mechanisms that the independent sector has. Bring those things together, grow together, consolidate, have more power, and be more competitive at the top end. Because I don't think any podcaster, any independent podcaster wants their only options to be these giant companies. They want something a little bit different. Podcasting has always been an open space. It's always been a very democratic form of media. No one wants that to stop. So I think we do have to think about what consolidation looks like. I think Audioboom is well positioned to be a part of that. We've built a platform business that we can look to acquire smaller networks, smaller podcast production companies, put them on top of the Audioboom platform, let our engine do its thing and supercharge what they do. They can focus on the quality of their content or the network that they're building out. Our sales mechanism, our sales engine behind that, our distribution engine behind that can power it. So that's one form of consolidation, which would that roll-up strategy for Audioboom to grow. But I think there needs to perhaps be something bigger than that. If you look at whatever the mid-tier looks like, Audioboom, Acast, Libsyn, there'll be some others that I miss out. But that real midfield, possibly there's a world in which we all need to do more together to combat the big 4 a little.
I'm on the one hand very excited because I love shakeups. And on the other hand, I'm just like, is that just creating a fifth large entity that everybody's going to have to compete against? And maybe, who knows? So I wanted to ask you about one particular carve out from your quarterly earnings report. You guys had a pretty decent jump in the RPM, revenue per meal. So basically, how much money you guys make for every 1,000 downloads. It's now over $60. Can you walk through where that number comes from and why it's heading up and I'm hoping that the reason is that we have a really healthy industry here.
Yeah, so RPMs are an optimization metric, right? It's how much value we can extract from every 1,000 downloads that we have running through the platform. Now, if that's going in the right direction, you would assume that everything's super healthy in the industry. That's not the case, but there's a little more to it than that. So we've gone from when we first launched this metric, $13 per thousand downloads.
Wow. I didn't realize that was the start.
The charts don't go back as far as 2019 on our earnings. If we were to show that, it would be $13 in 2019.
Well, extra congratulations then.
Thank you. Our yearly average was over $60, but we have been as high on a quarterly basis in Q4 of last year of $78. So we can take it even higher. Really, when you think about what that means, what that metric is, RPM, it's a combination of four things. It's the amount of inventory that you create per download. So how many ad slots per download. It is then how many of those that you sell. So fill rate, and then it is, of course, pricing. So those three things combined give you your RPM. All of those have fluctuated over time, right? So pricing was very high in 2022, came down across the ad market recession in 23, and is now in a healthy place again. But we've continued to be steady and solidify, I think, that pricing. Fill rate has been relatively steady in that time. So we've always made improvements to that fill rate. It's slowly improved over that time. We add more sellers, we work with more brands, more customers, improves that fill rate. It also creates a bit of competitive tension around pricing and allows us to sell things at a slightly higher rate as well. So those two things work together. And as we improve our monetization engine, build our sales team out, both of those things grow. But I think the key part, you can see this as the positive or the negative for the industry, Jeff, is how many ad slots are made available per episode as being the other key driver here. So if I rewound just 3 years, we would be making available to sell around 5.5 ads per download or per episode. So 5 ad slots, that's pre-roll, mid-rolls, post-rolls, so just 5.5 of those. Today, we make available 12. So you can see the 100% extra inventory pretty much from the same piece of content or from the same singular download. Now, is that a good thing? Well, it's great for driving revenue. As you can see, the RPM's going up, revenue's going up. We're extracting more value from each one of those downloads. Is it such a good user experience, listener experience? I think we're still in the realms of it being okay, but how much further we can take it, I don't know. 12 ads per episode could potentially be up to 12 minutes of advertising. It could also be much lower than that because we have 30-second ads and not all of those ad slots get filled, of course. But we're certainly pushing that high, and we're not the only ones doing it. I think other big networks are doing it. There are worse offenders than us out there when it comes to the number of ads per episode. But to your point, it's a key one to look at and keep looking at, right? How many ads being made available, whether we're overdoing this. I mentioned earlier on in the interview, we don't want to be a format where there's 28 minutes of ads per hour of content because that is a terrible listener experience. We also needed to extract more value as an industry from listeners, and that is one of the ways we are doing it, but we got to be careful it doesn't go too far.
For free versions of a show, fill it with ads, give the creator more money so they can make the show better, and foster a community where you can sell ad free at a premium or something. I know that's way easier said than done and it doesn't work for every show, but that is my kind of guiding principle. Obviously, we don't want 28 minutes of ads, but 12 minutes of ads for an hour of audio, in my mind, not a huge deal. So, my last question for you is how you see the industry evolving, what your expectations are. If we sit down 5 years from now, what are we going to be talking about?
We're going to say, what is a podcast?
Yeah.
And we'll still not have the answers to that. We are going to say, did we do a good job here on figuring out video? And we'll be interested to see what the answers are there. We are going to say, did you all consolidate in the midfield? And did Audioboom figure that out? And hopefully I'll say, yeah, we did the right things here and the industry is in a healthier place because of it. I think the guiding light to all of that from my end is just ensuring that in 5 years' time, this is still a creator-led industry because that's the beauty of what we do. So everything that Audioboom, most of what Audioboom will be focused on over that time will be powering podcasting for creators. So I don't know what that looks like or what changes. happen in that time, but I think the one thing that I really do want to ensure is still in place in 5 years' time is that role of the independent creator and podcaster.
Well, thank you, Stuart. Really appreciate you joining.
Thank you, Jeff. Anytime. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much to Stuart for joining us. You can find him on LinkedIn, and you can find your next listen at audioboom.com. For more podcast-related news, info, and takes, you can follow me on LinkedIn at Jeff Umbro. Podcast Perspectives is a production of the Podglomerate. If you're looking for help producing, marketing, or monetizing your podcast, you can find us at podglomerate.com, shoot us an email at listen@thepodglomerate.com, or follow us on all socials at PodglomeratePods. This episode was produced by Chris Boniello and myself, Jeff Umbro. This episode was edited and mixed by Jose Roman. And thank you to our marketing team, Joni Deutsch, Madison Richards, Morgan Swift, Annabella Penna, and Perry Gross, and a special thank you to Dan Christo. Thank you all for listening, and I'll catch you all in a few weeks.